And welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. Now more than ever, I'm Jeff Kaneng. Now all this week, you know the theme. It is State of the Nation. Have the inmates taken over the asylum? We're going to bring a whole host of guests and experts to talk about Kenya, where we are going with Kenya, if you will. On the guest today is a man, I tell you, what a character. You need to know this guy. He's never been on the bench before, so this time he is a man who you're going to enjoy. Sit back, because way back, yes, I call him a political gun for hire. He calls himself a pro. Listen to this. Back in '97, was actually head of the Ngilu presidential campaign. He was a journalist, a publisher by profession, and yes, remember the Post on Sunday? He's the one who exposed Goldenberg, was arrested. Not only that, he was jailed by the court for 6 months in committee, served in Block 131 for 6 months, came out, and in 2007 decided to jump on the ODM bandwagon, was very close to ODM when during that whole campaign. After that, he was absconded, if you will, to the Prime Minister's office, and then he quit after a while. He'll tell us why. Now, he is the CEO of the Eugene Wamalwa campaign. So now, who is he supporting? How do the things look? And he wrote an article in Monday Star saying the only way Uhuru can get himself out of the mess is to speak to one senior counsel, Paul Mwite. Heavy stuff. Sit back. TG's in the house. Tony Gachoka.
Jeff, hi, how are you?
My brother.
How are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to be on the bench.
Welcome to the bench.
Absolutely.
Man, you've led a life, huh?
I hope you can handle the fire. I hope the bench is hard enough for the fire.
We're about to call G4S now.
Yes, Jeff.
So, let's start with your article, Monday Star.
Yes.
It was very interesting, man. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head saying the only way, I guess, Uhuru can be vindicated is if he speaks to Paul Mwite, who's senior counsel and who's very close to Mungiki, and he can say whether Uhuru is part of Mungiki, whether he was part of this whole system, whether he was the mastermind to drive Mungiki to do what they did in Naivasha. Is that
the facts are this, Jeff. There was a charge by Ocampo that there was a conspiracy between the Kenyan police and Mungiki that provided a corridor for revenge attacks. The charge is against Uhuru Reid. And my point is, Ali was discharged. So the police component of those charges was dismissed by the chamber. The only component now left, which is facing the Deputy Prime Minister and Ambassador Mudhaura, is the issue of Mungiki. Now, the issue of Mungiki being an organization, having a policy for the extermination of a population, having a commander, having a financier, those are the core issues that surround or that vindicate charges that are alluded to war crimes. Now, the only way to escape those charges, defeat those charges, is actually to show that Uhuru was never part of the Mungiki, he was never a commander of the Mungiki, he was never part of the organization of Mungiki, and so on. Now, Paul Mwite is senior counsel. For 20 years, he has represented Mungiki. Not just the leaders like Maina Jenga and several members of Mungiki, but the organization. So he is well aware, legally and professionally, about the makeup of Mungiki. He will be the most effective person to cross-examine, to be able to actually ask people who are alleging, fraudsters who are alleging that Uhuru was part of this and not, would not be able to go past Mwite's eye, because Mwite would ask them tough questions, because he knows them. These are people he has dealt with.
Why not go directly to Maina Jenga if you want Mungiki's answer?
My point is, Uhuru right now requires a lawyer. And a lawyer is a legal strategy. He already has a team of lawyers, but he needs a lawyer with a legal strategy to be able to show the court that the issue of the policy and organization and so forth, the legal arguments, because remember, Uhuru has been charged by Ocampo on legal charges, not on personality issues. So Maina Jenga is just an individual. He can be a witness or not, that is not relevant. What is relevant is whether Uhuru has a legal strategy better and capable of defeating Ocampo's legal strategy. And my view is that he has no choice. The only person, in my own view, in this country who is competent enough is Paul Mwite. And look at Paul Mwite's record.
It's a clean record for the most part, but let me ask you this, Tony.
Yeah.
Paul Mwite's relationship with the Kenyatas has been adverse at best.
Yes.
He's the one who's always talked about all these families with rich land, wealth, this accumulated wealth over the years.
Yes.
They can't, it's like oil and water mixing.
You're right, but you know, Uhuru Kenyatta led the example himself. He ran against President Kibaki in the year 2002 and then joined him in government in 2007. And if you were to ask Uhuru today, he's enjoyed working with Kibaki more than he's ever enjoyed in politics before. But they were adversaries. You go and look at Japan and look at Germany. They were enemies in the Second World War to the States. I mean, they fought the British, they fought the Americans. Today they are the greatest allies in Europe and across the Atlantic. Politics is about moving from one position to another. Hillary Clinton is working with Obama. Paul Mwite can work with Uhuru Kenyatta. And let me also tell you this. We've just lost Jenga Karume. We've just lost John Michuki. Kikuyu land has lost its pillars. The dinosaurs of Central of Gema politics are falling. And nobody can argue of the intellectual prowess of Paul Mwite and Uhuru ticket together would send shivers in the entire Central Province. Nobody can argue about what kind of stamina he would bring to an Uhuru candidature. Nobody can argue about the intellectualism he would bring, and nobody would argue about the history and the news it would make. Already you're talking about it here on the bench.
Absolutely. Okay, let me ask you this, Tony. It looks, for all intents purposes, this case is going to full trial.
It is, for all intents and purposes, sadly looking that the appeals that had been lodged, the lower court has refused to admit them. There is still the higher court that can consider a second stage of appeal. Yeah. But they have further ruled that the issue of jurisdiction not determined cannot stop the other trial from proceeding.
Correct.
So you've got a situation where this case can actually go to trial quicker than we think. And my point is, it is the urgency of that and that alone that needs people to look at why was Uhuru confirmed. Why was Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta confirmed, and why should he not have been confirmed? And my own view is that he was confirmed because some of the evidence that the court has is a misunderstanding of Mungiki, a misunderstanding of who is in charge of Mungiki, and that Mungiki is an amorphous. It is not one organization. It is the branches and sects of it and so on. And so there is many ways in which a lawyer, capable lawyer, should be able to make the court understand that it misunderstood and got the evidence wrong on the Mungiki question. Yeah. And I'm saying, without wanting to be repetitive, that I don't believe the British lawyers on record right now have a knowledge or understanding of this very crucial area alone to be able to convince that bench of appeal or even the court at full trial. And I believe that Uhuru, being a personal friend of mine, I would hate to imagine, I shudder at the thought, having been in jail myself, I shudder at the thought that a legal technicality of judgment or error by him or his handlers could lead him to one of the worst things that nobody can imagine, which is a court a conviction.
Correct. And we're talking 30 years plus.
Exactly. And like a doctor, Jeff, you don't choose. You take the best doctor. You don't ask where he comes from. You get the best doctor when you're sick, and he treats you the best way he can, and you pay him the price. In law, you do the same. You get the best lawyers, and you put them to work, and they do the best case for you. So for me on this, I'm going all out. I wrote that article. I will not stop telling Mwite. I will not stop telling Uhuru. I have spoken to both of them. I've spoken to Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, the Deputy Prime Minister. I've talked to Honorable Paul Mwite, and I've told them the Gema community is larger than both of them, and that they need to find those ego problems they have, bring them back down, and be able to work out on a truthful, because Mwite knows that Uhuru is not a member of Mungiki. Mwite had an affidavit, if you remember, that removed Maina Jenga from court. He knows very well that what role Uhuru did not play. So why can't he use his intellectual capacity, his knowledge of this matter, to make sure that the court has the same information?
Let's switch gears just a little bit, Tony, because already people are convicting the Ocampo 4. They've already acted as judge, jury, and executioner. And I'm referring to a statement this past weekend by the Prime Minister, who you were very close to during the ODM days. Even after the coalition government was formed, you were very close to the Prime Minister's office. Was that an unfortunate statement by him, saying that these guys are murderers, they belong in jail?
Protocol does not allow me to use the words that I'm going to use on the Prime Minister, because I found it reckless, I found it careless, and I found it absolutely unfortunate. And I say protocol doesn't allow me to use the words, but I can only say so because the weight of the words that he used were not just distasteful and reckless, but they were aimed at denying people their right to natural justice. Everybody is innocent until they are proved guilty. That's why we have courts of law. One of the reasons we've been fighting impunity in this country all these years is for the executive to leave the judiciary alone. It is not for the executive to tell judges or prosecutors what to do and how to find in those cases.
Those were the days of Moi.
Those were the days of the dictator Moi. Correct. And Raila should be the last person, having been detained by an executive order or by Moi, to call for a court to convict people before it has had them. They have not gone to trial. Confirmation stages, and this was said during those trials, are only exploratory. They are only to find if there is any merit for a full trial to explore further whether or not these things took place. So a full trial has not even taken place so that evidence can be given fully by all the parties. And you are the Prime Minister of a republic which you want to lead, and you go ahead and say that those people are worse than murderers and so on and they should belong in a jail. How would you make that statement if, as president? If you were president today, how would you use your power? My God, God forbid. I got a chill in my spine.
You did.
I said, if this guy was president, he would just lock these guys up. I don't think they would even. I don't think he would even let Mutunga, give them a hearing in the courts.
Right.
So I said to myself, my Lord, this character of the Prime Minister is beginning to come out, and it is a character that has been there for some time, but it is a character that I've been reluctant to speak about. Jeff, you realize that unlike my friend Meguna, I have remained very quiet about leaving the Prime Minister's office. But there are certain things that I saw while I was working with the Prime Minister that show me of a leader who's got hatred in his heart. First of all, I noticed the appointments in his office. Out of the 16 appointments that were there, at least 14 came from his community. His private,
when you were there?
When I was there, his private secretary, Karuri Omondi, Nyanza. His political head, Adhuru Awiti, Nyanza. Head of communication, Dennis Onyango, Nyanza. Head of coordination, Cesar Asio, Nyanza. Head of coalition affairs, Meguna, Nyanza. His brother, he appointed his brother assistant minister. The chief whip in parliament was his cousin, Jacoyo Medio. His sister was the ambassador in Nigeria. His sister, other sister, Beryl, became the chairman of the retirement benefits, railways benefit. And this guy, he would just go on and on and on. And my brother, it was every day and you could see it.
But I'm sure it's the same thing with State House and Kibaki. I'm sure it's all people from Odaya.
I am not going to say it has not happened wrongly by the Kibaki or any other administration. You asked me about the character of the Prime Minister with regard to this statement. I don't think, by the way, very highly of Kibaki as well. So that's for another day.
Sure.
Because I think he should be at the Hague, not Uhuru. But I tell you that.
And he still might end up there, Tony.
Do you understand my point? Because it is these guys who are fighting for power, for each other. No, there is no peace, no Raila, no peace, no Kibaki, no. Uhuru was official leader of the opposition. What does Uhuru have to? He was not even a minister.
Correct.
By the time the so-called Naivasha massacres were taking place, Uhuru was not in government. I mean, he was the official leader of the opposition.
Correct.
And he was the head of KANU. He's never even been the head of PNU. Well, and in The Hague, the people with the highest political responsibility are the people who should be there. The people who should be at The Hague is Odinga and Kibaki, if you ask me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tony, you make a very good point, because there's a letter, a purported letter, now that slipped its way into Parliament, apparently from the British government or the the Commonwealth Department of the UK, saying that this is going to happen. The minute Kibaki leaves office, he's going to end up in The Hague. Now they're debating in there. We don't know whether it was a fake or whether it was a genuine one. I want to talk about that after the break. Also, your days as a publisher and a journalist. I don't know if you've seen the latest Nairobi Law Monthly.
No, what?
With the Jonathan Moy.
Oh, Lord.
Killed Julie Ward, allegedly.
My Lord. No, we can't allow gutter journalism.
We don't know if it's true, because it was written by John Ward, the girl's father. Let's talk about it after the break.
Okay.
Somebody called G4S. Tony Gachoka is lighting up the bench. My goodness, why didn't this man come here before? You know he's going to be a regular from now on, because he calls it like he sees it. Have the inmates taken over the asylum? Plenty more after the break. Don't even go away. This bench is on fire. Back in a moment. And welcome back to Capital Talk. This one is smoking, folks. My goodness. Sit back. Tony Gachoka has appeared on the bench and he's holding nothing back. Guns blazing. Sit back. So, Tony, that letter apparently that slipped its way into Parliament, purportedly from the UK government, saying that, hey, among other things, Kibaki's going down.
Okay, first of all, both you and I must have the utmost respect for Parliament. And we must say at the beginning that we respect the National Assembly as an arm of government. However, every information that I have is that that letter was a forgery. Now, for an honorable member of Parliament to use Parliament and the privileges that Parliament protects people by what they do in Parliament, from civil suits and other action, is, in my view, one of the worst absurdities that a person purporting to be a leader can purport to do. First, you are raising an issue of a friendly government. The United Kingdom and the people of Kenya are friends. The peoples of the two countries are friends. The governments are just protocols of treaties and of good order. And being a former director of protocol, I know how much work it means when a country has a good impression of another country, both in terms of trade, tourism, balance of payments, of various goods and services. It impacts a lot. And when countries fall apart from each other, it affects really trade in a serious way. For example, Argentina and Britain are still in trouble over the Falklands. There's still, ugly words that are changed between them. So what Parliament did was wrong. Those, and not Parliament in its entirety, but those members of Parliament who purported to draw in this matter of the letter and it was a forgery was wrong. Number two, they greatly injured, in my view, the cases for the people who are accused before the International Criminal Court.
It makes it worse.
It makes it terrible, Jeff. Because if you are going to copy in a forged letter that the president of the ICC is involved in a conspiracy with the British government to find some people guilty, and you are going to put that letter into the public domain, obviously it will find itself to the ICC. Now, if you are a judge at the ICC and you are seated there, and you are looking at this and saying, these people in Kenya, impunity, you wouldn't be happy.
No.
So how does it help the accused people?
It makes us look really bad.
So it is just the same way you saw that incident when William Ruto was before the court, when some handler was speaking to Kass FM and making comments that were almost dangerous to him. These are people who in Nairobi are not charged before the court, but they are not lawyers, and they are making statements whose repercussions can fatally affect cases that are before the International Criminal Court. And for those reasons, I am saying there needs to be an overhaul, a rethink of the way in which there is an approach towards the ICC by the people who are before it. And I'm saying whether it is political friends or legal teams, they can end up hurting my brother Uhuru fatally.
Right. And this is why the theme for this week, Tony, it seems, I mean, in all this madness, the inmates have taken over the asylum.
And when Jeff, you know what happens in a responsible country like ours? The fourth estate moves in. And the fourth estate, and no wonder it was called so, moves in and says, this is utter madness. We go to the people. The court of public opinion is the only one that matters. You tell the people, listen, these guys have gone insane. And the people are the people who eventually make these people change their ways. And I want to give you examples where this has changed. Look at Rwanda. Rwanda is an oasis of peace. It used to be a disaster. Look at Uganda. Yoweri Museveni went with some 16-year-old boys with guns blazing. And look at Uganda today. The country has come down because the people reached a point where they said we need to stay free. We need to stay peaceful. And I'm saying, my worry is this. Kenyans saw violence in 2007, 2008. This is a country still suffering with IDPs. This is a country suffering with poverty, where people live below $2 a day. Do you think Kenyans want to be sure that we are going to have a peaceful, prosperous Kenya? Or do they want this uncertainty? And all I am saying is that these matters are creating uncertainty.
They are.
When you create panic that the president is going to be picked up, you create, after his retirement, when you create panic that the British government is after certain communities. If those communities were not mature, they would have reacted. This was aimed at making those communities react. I thank God that the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin community did not react. But this is provocation. And that is why I'm saying, even the comments by the Prime Minister added on top of this, make the situation from bad to worse. So neither Parliament is good, nor the Prime Minister is good. If you ask me, we put all these guys in one cart and we throw them in the ocean. And we bring brand new generation of leadership.
Fresh leaders.
Yeah,
Fresh.
if you ask me, the whole lot of them, Jeff.
Tony, let me talk about publication for a while, because Nairobi Law Monthly, I can't stop talking about this one, because for the first time, I mean, every time Ahmed Nasir has been very bold, but this time he's got guts like I've never seen, because splashing headline by John Ward, the father of Julie Ward, killed in 1988. His murder unsolved to this day, but the headline is screaming allegedly that Jonathan Moy allegedly raped and killed Julie Ward. Headline, and about 30-page article inside. Gutsy, man, it's gutsy.
It is. First of all, let me say from the onset, Abdul Nasir is a credible individual. He's standing as a lawyer and in his public life has lived an extraordinary life of public service. So I would first of all say anything that he writes is something that should be looked at seriously by anybody who reads it. That's number one. Number two, he's one of the sharpest lawyers in this town. And he's not unaware about the laws of libel or defamation or such. So he would be fully aware when writing such a matter that he's writing something in the great public interest, or he's writing something in his view where he has got the factual basis. The cardinal rule of journalism is that facts are free, but opinion is free, but facts are sacred. And therefore, he must either have an opinion or have the facts. Now, knowing Ahmed Nasir well, he would never have gone to write such an article without either of those two cardinal rules of journalism. Now, the country having been able to get such a headline in the past, impossible.
Yeah, in your time.
Oh God, detention without trial. They will pick you up, they will come in GSU, you know, everybody will come, break it up and so on. Now Kenyans are beginning to have to realize that even the princes, even those who live in principalities can be exposed. And it is important because, Jeff, I think Moi got away with too much. And as a person, Moi detained people without trial, almost killed Kenneth Matiba. The Oko murder was never solved. The Julie Ward issue was never done. The looting of public assets was never fully brought to an end, including Goldenberg, which was one of the biggest financial scams that sent me to jail. So Moi managed to just get away into retirement. And I believe that there is a being up there that's looking back at Moi and hating him. Whether it's his son Philip, whether it's his son Jonathan, somewhere is telling Moi, you didn't do good to this country. And before long, the whole weight of the or the wrong things that happened under Moi are beginning to come out. Now, if this is part of that, that process is irreversible, because the new constitution now gives everybody the right to information. And the media is going to get more and more bold. And I get this feeling that very soon, many things about Moi are going to be said that have never been said before. And if you doubt it, you look at the cases in court today between Okemo and Gishoro, and what's going on about allegations about financial inappropriacy. So the fact that it was done long ago doesn't mean it will never come out. And I want to tell you, Moi's skeleton is full. The closet is full of many skeletons. And I'm telling you, many are going to come out.
It's not over yet.
And the bench won't have enough time to cover them all.
Skeletons on the bench.
Then I'm telling you, many things are going to come out.
All right, let's look ahead, Tony. Looking forward. Who do you see as the two most likely candidates going into the election, the two front runners? Let's say, all things being equal, if Uhuru and Ruto are out of the picture, who do you see as a leading candidate?
First of all, I'm not going to go on public saying that my brother Uhuru will be out of the picture. I can't say that. Okay? So I will not give my observation on who can be candidates on the premise that Uhuru is out of the picture. I believe he's going to be a candidate, and I pray well for him, and I would never want those words to come from my mouth. The second point is that regardless of Uhuru running and being in the race, I see Western Province as the straw, or what do they say? The one that broke the camel's back.
Yes, the straw.
The straw that broke the camel's back. When I started working with Eugene Wamalwa, I said 2 years ago, the problem will come from Western. Now, the real thing you need to know is that you don't understand Western politics. So I better tell it to you as it is. Western province politics began with Senator Wamalwa, Eugene's father.
Correct.
The father, senator. He was senator in 1965 to 1968. Wamalwa Kijana, his name is Michael Wamalwa. Yes. But he was called Kijana to differentiate between the senator and him when he came into the lower house. And he served from 1979 until the day he died as the 8th vice president. And then remember, there has been a war of various types. First, between Wamalwa and Raila. Yep. So it's not that Raila has never taken on Western. He has taken on Western, the way he's taken on Mudavadi. But that time in Thika, he was under the table when he took on Michael Wamalwa Kijana, if you remember, over Fort Kenya. And Raila left Fort Kenya to begin NDP after he was defeated by Michael Wamalwa Kijana. So the fact that he's fighting with Musalia Mudavadi is just a second episode between the Luo and the Luya. Okay, that is important. Second, after Wamalwa died, 8 months into the vice presidency, another Wamalwa did not take over the Fort Kenya. Eugene ran on a Republican Party ticket and lost. So he only came into parliament this term as a Wamalwa, and then claimed leadership. So to continue the bloodline, he said, I'm running. The same way Kenyatta has a bloodline, Wamalwa has a bloodline, senator, brother, son. Now my point is, Mudavadi bloodline is the opposite. Mudavadi got into power through his father. His father was appointed by Moi. He was called Moses Muganda Mudavadi. That's right. And he was appointed by Moi when Moi was looting this nation left, right, and center. And after he died, Mudavadi was appointed Minister for Finance. So the wealth of the Mudavadi family, came from the Moi regime, and only during the Moi regime. When Moi was leaving office, he appointed Musalia Mudavadi vice president and gave him to Uhuru. Uhuru ran as vice president with Musalia against Kibaki, who ran with Wamalwa Kijana, and they were kicked. Their ass was kicked. Big time. So where is this fallacy that Mudavadi has ever defeated our Wamalwa? Where has it ever happened? It has never happened. They have never gone head to head. When they went head to head, it was 202, and in 202, Musalia did not even get Sabatia. He could not get his own seat at home. So I am telling you that Eugene is running for president this year. And whether Musalia will run or not, they will meet at the ballot. And I predict to you that if Musalia is lucky to get 10% of the vote, 10% of the Luya vote, he will be lucky. And some of it is arithmetic. The Bukusu come at the majority of the community. They come from Trans Nzoia and they come from Bungoma. And they are over 50% of the Luya tribes. Mudavadi is a Malagori. He comes from Vihiga. They constitute less than 10% of the Luya nation. That's number one. Number two, politically, he has never shown his muscle. He has only been there under Moi and a project of Moi. Then, when he failed politics, he went to Raila. Raila picked him up. Once Raila leaves him, what will he have?
Can he beat Raila?
Inside ODM?
Yes. He can?
Of course.
He can be the ticket?
Well, when you say beat Raila, in the sense that will he move out of ODM? Yes. But will he go to a delegates meeting and somehow they award him no way.
It can't happen.
It doesn't happen.
But if he leaves ODM?
If I were him, I would come nowhere near Nairobi. He's very clever to say to stay in the counties because the war that would be here. Don't you remember in 2007, Orange House itself was burnt down? I mean, these guys burnt down their own headquarters. I mean, where their certificates were, where their people were, they burned down Rainbow House, they burned down Orange House. Even Raila could not access, even Raila himself could not come near. So, in my view, I think Uhuru is a leading candidate, without any doubt. And I think that Raila's days are gone.
You think so?
Oh, completely. Because what is his support base?
Despite the polls?
The polls are wrong. And they're wrong because, first of all, they've been looking at ODM as one unit. Every Kenyan can now see ODM is not one unit. Charity Ngilu has endorsed Musalia Mudavadi. Barala has said that he's not with Raila. Who is he with? Ruto has left. So who is ODM? The Rift Valley has left. Musalia is living with Western. Charity is saying she's supporting Musalia Mudavadi. So other than, really phantoms.
He's alone.
In the air. He's in the air. He's alone. And by the way, historically, that's how his politics have been. In NDP, he was alone. Even when his father was alive, Jaramogi, that happened. The only thing that changed at ODM was the coming together of the Pentagon. The Pentagon has disintegrated. And that politics is already ongoing. If you look at today the public utterances, the only people hitting at Mudavadi are Orengo, Anyang' Nyong'o, and Otieno Kajwang, all from one area. Where is the other voices of ODM? Where is the coast? Where are the others? Where are they not hitting at Musalia?
So the next president of the Republic of Kenya is?
I think there will be a contest between three important constituencies. There will be definitely two Luhya presidential candidates, definitely. And there will be a very strong Central Kenya candidate, Uhuru. And what will happen is, because there will be two Luhya candidates, there may be a split in that vote. And if there is a split in that vote, then Uhuru would come in first. And Uhuru would, in a runoff, generate more support from more people like Ruto and others, and would be able to be triumphant. Where Raila has a problem is the following. Demographically, the Kikuyu is the largest community, followed by the Luhya, followed by the Kalenjin, followed by the Luo, and followed by the Kampa. So without the Luhya, ODM's support of the poor, being 30, comes by half to 15. He will be about the number of Kalonzo. Okay? And that's the number he had in 1997. Raila ran before. He had Kijana Wamala, I think he was next to Kijana in numbers. So these are not magical numbers, right? If the Luhya community move en masse out of ODM, and they have said that they will move out if there are no free and fair elections. And I'm telling you, there will be no free and fair elections. There cannot be in ODM, because the people who have an interest in ODM, and I want to give you an example of what I mean. Look at Nairobi. Evans Kidero wants to be governor. He's from Nyanza. He's a good man, but he wants an ODM ticket. The Raila wants to be president. He's ODM. He's from Nyanza. Go to another place where, then look at Philip Kisia. He's from Western Kenya. He wants to be governor of Nairobi. He wants an ODM ticket. Right? Musalia wants to be president, wants an ODM ticket. Now, if you are Kisia, would you let Musalia stop?
No. No. If
you are Kidero, would you let Raila stop?
No.
So the interests within the party are going to tear it, because together they are strong. Apart, they will survive. Kila mtu on their own way. And this is a story of all political parties. This happened to the president and PNU. In the last election, when they couldn't come together.
That's right.
The NARC Rainbow Alliance broke up, if you remember the Rainbow Alliance. So there was Afina, NARC, DP, small little parties, each of them Sisi kwa Sisi, each of them coming with small constituencies. And one of the biggest PNU problems in parliament today is that there is no such party called PNU. And therefore there are no numbers. That's what's going to happen in ODM. There are going to be breaks in ODM, there will be pieces of ODM, and you'll be hearing one called, I don't know, Shirikisho, maybe one called what with 2-3 MPs, and maybe whatever, and Raila being some kind of